How do you measure dignity or influence and even empowerment? Some of the most meaningful outcomes in development are the hardest to track. You know change is happening, people are thinking differently, policy windows are opening, and a spark has been lit. But the donor wants a number, and your log frame has no space for nuance. The trap that many fall into. Some traditional monitoring and evaluation tools weren't built to capture shifts in power, contribution to complex change, emergent or unplanned outcomes. So we default to what's easy to measure rather than what's important to measure. So, what can we do? We can rethink what evidence looks like. We can choose methods to capture complexity. We can learn to measure behavior change, network influence, unexpected outcomes, and how communities define success. Here are a few approaches or methods that work when results are messy. For example, outcome harvesting, most significant change, ripple effects mapping, contribution analysis, sense maker. All of these methods are more suited for programs that we call complex. They have their advantages, they also have their trade offs, but they can see what indicators and numbers can't. Let's look at these approaches in a bit more detail. Let's start with outcome harvesting. Outcome harvested, instead of measuring against preset indicators, you collect evidence of what actually happened and then work backwards to understand contribution. Then you have most significant change. This technique is where you gather stories from stakeholders about the most meaningful or significant change they experienced, and then you analyze which stories rise to the top and why. You also have ripple effects mapping. This is a visual participatory method to map out the direct and indirect impacts of a project. It's especially helpful for tracking influence across networks. Contribution analysis is another method. Here is where you build a plausible case that your intervention contributed to the observed change, and you use a mix of evidence. Last but not least is SenseMaker. This is a tech-enabled tool that collects micronarratives and let participants interpret their own stories to reveal patterns in perceptions, behavior, and context. If you wish to learn more about these methods in detail, join the Monitoring and Evaluation Academy.